Hello everyone. So let's start with the topic, unit testing, whether it's an afterthought or an absolute necessity for Gopal. So actually, all of us here are great developers writing excellent code. So why should we care? Correct. And on top of that, as Ken Beck says, I get paid for code that works and not for tests. Correct. I am always given tight deadlines to my delivery. No time to write tests. Or maybe let's put it in the backlog. We'll see when we have some time. That is never. As a developer, we never have sufficient time to write unit tests. Or maybe let the QA handle it. What will QA do if we ourselves are going to test everything? Or end-to-end test will cover it. Okay, I get it. Like my PR is not getting approved until the reviewer sees a test file attached to it. So let's just fool the reviewers. Let's just write basic unit test. And no one is going inside my test file and looking into my unit test. But, do you know the cost of not writing unit tests? Bugs. Production was giving us sleepless nights. QA throwing bugs at us. Losing confidence in complex functions. So there are functions in our code which are hard to understand, difficult to refactor, and when time grows, if we don't have proper unit tests written for that, we lose confidence on that. Correct. And hence, we look for people who worked on that. Increase collaboration. This collaboration is not productive collaboration because they need to drop whatever they are doing and help us. We sacrifice the reliability of our code and compromise the stability of our application. Actually, we get in a cycle. If you look at the diagram on the right, less tests we write, less stable our code becomes. Less stable our code becomes, less productive and accurate we are. Less productive and accurate we are, more pressure we feel. More pressure we feel, less tests we write. Ultimately, the time to production increases because of bugs, because of sacrificing the reliability of our code. Overall objective of delivering that feature, that time increases. If we would have had proper unit tests written for function or our code, it would have served as a technical documentation. So in case of issues, we would have just referred to our docs, our technical documentation of the unit test cases, and it would have helped us isolate the issue. If you look at this pyramid, the rightmost arrow, the return on investment is highest when it comes to unit testing. Because unit testing is tied to the basic building blocks of code, that are functions and methods. And when it comes to functional testing and integration testing, it is very expensive to write because with time, we know the feature is going to expand and there are new features which are going to come into place. Correct. And on top of that, generally, functional testing and integration testing is something written by a different person. So for them, it's a black box. And it's us the developer who know what we have written inside. Only we know what we have written inside the code. So better if we write good unit test for it. And if I talk about Permatic, so at Permatic, we serve around 500 billion requests per day. And the processing is, we process 10 petabytes per day. So at this scale, even a small mistake can have a huge impact. So apart from just testing our functionality, we need to have a good quality of code and better unit tests. Maybe we might overdo writing unit tests, but I think it's fine because unit test is something which is going to stay with us for long. It will help us increase the code lifetime. Okay. So what should we do now? Maybe follow what Dave Cheney says. So as Dave Cheney says, you should write tests at the same time you write your code. So there are two parts to writing good unit tests. First is the test strategy, knowing how to write test cases, and the second is testable code. So it's equally important to write code that can be tested. Not everything that is written can be tested. So whenever we are writing unit tests, we should make sure to write different test cases for each of our subblocks. For example, let's say we have a if case, and that if case has multiple conditions to it. So write a different unit test for all that different conditions. So whatever is after that or condition or and condition, please try to write different unit tests for that. There are techniques to make better tests. So for me, table unit test cases has worked very well so far. So we'll look into it in the live demo. There is lot more to testing than just comparing the return arguments. Think about how you can test the output of the channel, how you can test for panic statement, how you can test your bool routines. And the most important, go beyond 100%. Think of how you can break those code. Instead of just covering the path, think about how to write unit tests for the boundary cases. Think from the client perspective. Think how your code is by the user. And the second part to it is writing testable code. So whenever we are designing the interfaces, whenever we are designing the low level part of our feature, so think about how to write interfaces that can be tested with. So you will be surprised to see when you change this, when you have this mindset, you will be able to write code that is extensible and maintainable at the same time. There can be code that can't be tested. So like we can't test for dialogues, deadlock or starvation through unit tests. So through different test strategies. And maybe I understand we are not able to test some part of the method. So it's absolutely fine. You must have heard some things like a function can't be tested. People are not wrong about it. It's just that the way that code is written. If we refactor that code a little bit, it will help. Okay. Now we look at some of the painful functions which are very hard to test. So basically we look at how we can mock a client, a HTTP client, and how we can mock the external dependencies which are part of the function. So I believe if we know how to mock the external dependencies, we'll be able to test the logic of almost 90% of our code base. So let's look at the live demo. Okay, so if you see here, I have written a very simple function which makes a HTTP get call, and it returns the status code, body, and an error. So if you see this function, it's very difficult not to make the actual HTTP get call while writing unit tests. But let's say we structure our code a bit. Let's say we define an API type, and in that API type we have a field client. And instead of calling the HTTP get method directly, maybe let's call it with the help of client. So instead of having a function do bad stuff, let's do good stuff. So in this function, what I have done is I have created a method of API type instead of having it as a function. Now the benefit it will have is whenever I want to call my function, first I need to instantiate API type. And in that instantiation, I can pass my own implementation of client. I can pass my own mock implementation. So to do that, first let's see how to create a skeleton for table-driven test case. So most of the IDE has support for it. This is VS Code. So in VS Code, all we need to do is right click on it and click on generate unit test for the function. If we do that, then it will generate a skeleton for us. So this is something which is auto generated by VS Code. And this is where our unit test cases goes. We can have a name to our test case, the values of the field, the values of the argument, and these are the return arguments. So if you see here, this skeleton will automatically make sure to run each of our test case, pass the value to the fields of the type, and also compare the values with what was expected and what we have passed. Okay. So to test HTTP client or to mock HTTP client, commonly there are three ways. First is we can create our own mock server, or maybe we can mock the method of HTTP client. We can mock the get method, the do method, and the third way is we can mock the transport field of the client. So transport field is responsible for actually making the call, and it contains the response, whatever response we get, it contains that. So, and transport field is of type round tripper. Round tripper is an interface which has a single method to it, that is round trip method. So what we have done here is we have implemented our own implementation of round trip method. So I have created a round trip function mock, and I have also implemented a round trip method. And now before calling do good stuff method, I'll make sure to pass my own HTTP client implementation and to pass my own implementation of transport layer. So in this, just one change I have done is I have added test fixtures. Now what are test fixtures? Test fixtures are something which help us to define the state of each of the unit tests before running the unit test and after running the unit test. Okay. So I have added this setup function which is of type function and it returns a HTTP client where we are going to pass our own mock implementation. And in here, if you see, I have made sure to call the setup function before running each of the unit tests. Okay. So let's say I need to test for a happy scenario, a 200 OK response with some body in it. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll first instantiate a client, a mock client, and in this mock client transport field, I'll pass my own implementation. So in this, if you see, I have passed my own mock round trip implementation, and I am passing a response. So my own status code and my own body. So this is a simple utility which I have written to compare the URL string as well. And in the error, I am passing it as nil. This is what I expect my method to return, a 200 OK and a OK body. Similarly, I can test for 400 status code by just changing this status code here and in whatever mock I have passed. Now let's say I need to test for the error scenario. This is something which we miss most of the time. So in our Codacy grade or in our Sonar view, if we see, so this is something which is missed all the time, like testing for error scenarios. So in testing for error scenarios, all we need to do is we'll pass an error this time here, okay, and we'll pass a blank implementation of response. And in want error, we mark it as true. So for demonstration purpose, I have not compared the exact error, but I would suggest everyone to compare the exact error as well. Now if I run this, it should run. Don't look at cache. I have written it and it's a correct unit test. Okay. So let's say if I change something, now how to catch the error? Okay. So let's say I make it status accepted instead of status OK. Now if I run it will tell me what was there and what it actually gave us. So it gave us 200 status code and we wanted it to give 202. And at what test case it failed? It failed at this test case. So it will also give us the name of the test case at which it failed. Okay. Now the most important part, I think in production all of us need to mock the external dependencies. So in here I have written a simple registration service. What it does is basically registers a user into database. So first it verifies whether the user exists or not in the cache. Then it puts it in DB, and then after putting it in DB, it puts it in cache for next turn, and accordingly it returns a success or error. So if we see the code, first it will validate whether our arguments are valid or not. Then it will make a get call to the cache package. If the user is not present, then it will insert it into the database and then it will put it in the cache. So now if you see this method, again, like it's very difficult to not make the actual call to the cache package or the database package. We are directly accessing the methods of cache and database to the package layer. Now let's say we structure our code a bit. Let's say we define services. We define a data store service of type interface, and we define a cache service of interface type. And there we have methods insert and get. So, and our cache package and database package now implements these interface. So what we have done basically is we have abstracted our code. So if you see here, you have already started writing code that is extensible. Now we have a register type which has a DB and cache field of type data store service and cache service. Now the register service don't need to worry about what is after the data store service or cache service. All we need to do is worry about our own logic which is written inside the register method. Right. So in this register method we are doing the same thing but through the type. So we'll call the same method but through the fields of the type. So a.cache.get, a.db.insert, and a.cache.put. At the time of calling this, so we can do the same thing which we did for round trip function, round trip method. We can create our own implementation or we can take help of MockGen. So MockGen is basically a tool which was developed by Google and it's currently maintained by Uber. It's very easy to install MockGen, and all we need to do is write a MockGen command and put the interface which we need to mock. What it will do is it will mock all the methods which are inside this interface. So it will auto generate a code like this. Okay. Now how to use this MockGen? Basically first we'll have our test picture in place. We'll have a setup function which will return us a controller. Controller helps control the life cycle of the mocks. It helps to validate the number of times the method was called, and it also helps to validate the values, the arguments which we pass to the mock methods. We'll also pass the mock cache service and the mock data store service. Now let's say we need to test if our username already exists in the cache. So for this, what we have done is, we have created a setup function, we have created our own controller, our DB mock, our cache mock. Okay. And in this case, we are making a call to the get method, the mock get method. And we are making sure that this mock, DB mock and cache mock is passed to the field of register type whenever the register method is getting called. Similarly, let's say we need to test the happy scenario. In this case, we can make a call to the get method, the insert method, and the put method. Now if I run this, it should pass. But let's say I comment this. Let's say I don't expect a call to the put method. In this case, the controller will make sure to throw error at us, telling like a call to put method was expected. And it was expected under this unit test case. So the space is replaced by underscore whenever we run this. Yeah. So these two are the example how we can mock the external dependencies and how we can mock the HTTP client. Now coming back to the slide. Okay. There was a gopher as well. So doing this, what we achieve, we basically make the life of future developer easy by writing maintainable and extensible code. So there is a lot more to just writing good unit tests. We need to have a good design of our code. We need to have a good interface defined to it. But writing a good unit test is a start to it. So let's start with writing good unit tests first, and let's not bunk writing unit tests. So on the closing note, the more testing we do, the more money we save on the long run. Think about that pyramid. Which test library to use? I think Go standard library has all the stuff which we need. Prefer table-driven test case. So it has a very low overhead when we need to add new unit tests to it. And it also helps isolate the issue. Testing all the things, it's a rabbit hole. We can't test everything through unit testing. Think of different test strategies. Think of how we can do the scale testing, how we can do the load testing, longevity testing, or maybe how we can instrument our code. There are open source tools which will help us instrument our code. And as Ellen Perlez says, a software system can best be designed if the testing is interlaced with the designing instead of being used after the design. So at the time of designing your interface, think how your interface implementation will be unit tested. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ayush. Do we have any questions from the audience for Ayush, please? Anyone?
So, integrated with the VS Code, you have to add some plugins for it, or?
No. So when you install, when you first type your first file of .go, then it will automatically tell you to add a Go plugin. So I think you can add that. So yeah, we need to add that, but that is pretty much automated. So you don't need to search it in the marketplace.
What are your thoughts on monkey patching?
We can do monkey patching. I think it's a good tool to do it. But for us, we have not run into a scenario of doing monkey patching. But yeah, I think it's a good tool. But have you tried with the Go standard libraries as well? I think in the latest version, there is a fuzz testing tool as well. So I think you should give it a thought to that. Like fuzz testing is also very cool, which is there. I think in Go 1.20 or something, we have that.
I wanted to ask, why didn't you use structure embedding in the code?
Why didn't I use?
Structure embedding because you are directly using that cast method. You can have used structure embedding just to say, right, let's code it, and it would mean the same thing.
Yeah, correct. So that's what I explained. So at the start, I didn't use the structure directly. I was using it through the package. So that was the bad code. That was do bad stuff. But after that, I created a type. And in that type, I created an interface. So instead of just using a structure, so the disadvantage of using a structure is we are directly exposing the fields of that structure to external package. So let's say we have it abstracted. Let's say we have an interface to it. It will be very beneficial in the long run. So let's say you are using MySQL, for example. Now, due to some business decision, you think of let's go with Postgres. And for that, you need some different variables. So that variable might also get exposed. But let's say if you have an interface, you have that abstracted interface. So registration service does not need to worry about anything, correct?
They're just being the functions.
Yeah, I have one question. So what are your thoughts on parallel unit testing?
Parallel unit testing means running the unit test in parallel.
So is it a good practice to do that, or are there any?
So if you ask me, it's not a good practice because let's say you will do parallel unit testing, you are an excellent developer, you will write excellent code, excellent unit test that will make sure to do the parallel unit testing. Now there are dependencies because you are a great developer. Now you have moved to another great project which has high ROI. Now some new pressure comes to your project because he need to maintain that. There are small bugs, there are small fixes which he need to do. Now he's scratching his head. What is happening? He does not know what is happening, correct? And you can't be present all the time to make him understand what you have done, correct? Because you have other things as well. You need to extend your bandwidth to make him understand that. So avoid parallel unit testing as much as you can. If you need to test Go routines, so there are ways to test Go routines. You can apply a sleep to your unit test as well and try to test it through that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, audience, and thank you so much, Ayush, for your talk.